We have several pieces of artwork to share to show the journey from Cana to the cross. Now, unfortunately, we have a very low attendance from my class today, but we do have two wonderful volunteers who will participate in sharing with you just a review of Jesus' journey from Cana to the cross. I'll start with the turning of the water into wine. Jesus turned over 100 gallons of water into wine at a wedding in Cana, his first miracle. All right. Joy, you want to read number 2?
Jesus taught the woman at Jacob's well about living water, and she and many Samaritans believed Jesus is Messiah.
Very good. All right, number 3. Flint's turn.
First of all, I just want to say this is not what I signed up for.
It's not. We thought we'd have many participants.
The royal officials in Capernaum begged Jesus to come heal his dying son, and Jesus sent him home, promising the boy would live. He believed Jesus and went home to find his son recovered exactly where he had asked for Jesus for help.
Okay. Number 4. Jesus put mud on the eyes of the man born blind. When the man washed off the mud in the pool of Siloam, he could see, and he worshiped Jesus. All right, there you go.
Jesus showed his disciples to serve each other by serving them, washing their feet as a humble servant.
All right, number 6.
7.
Oh, number 7. There you go. That's number 7.
While Peter waited by the fire as Jesus was questioned, he denied even knowing Jesus, just as Jesus had said would happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. We're doing the back with our activity. That was the good part. I'm the add-on. Oh, dear. Good morning, everyone. The journey from Cana to the cross is approximately 120 miles. We have reached the final road, as it is called the way of grief. Our text today is from the book of John, beginning in verse 16. So they took charge of Jesus. He went out carrying his cross, and he came to the place of the skull, as it is called. In Hebrew, it is called Golgotha. There they crucified him. They also crucified 2 other men, one on each side with Jesus in between them. Pilate wrote a notice and put it on the cross. Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews, is what he wrote. Many people read it because the place was not far from the city where Jesus was crucified. The notice was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. The chief priest said to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but rather, this man said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered them, "What I have written stays written." The word of the Lord. The 3 aspects of this very brief section are still very powerful. One that we're going to focus on, the first one, is the cross that Jesus carried, the suffering of anticipating much worse to come. The second is the 3 crucifixions, a very prolonged form of execution. And the third is the sign itself, the information and wording, and what it reveals of the enemies of Christ. In the very first verse of this text, we read, "And he went out carrying his cross." Some people use the phrase digging your own grave as a metaphor for doing something that's going to make your situation worse or causing a problem that is going to become your problem sometime in the future. Unfortunately, this is not used in a metaphorical sense in this text. To carry your own cross does not mean a burden or something that causes you suffering. It means to endure something that is going to cause your own death. The horror and cruelty of the fatigue and suffering that this experience Jesus had was merely an anticipation of worse to come. The battles of knowing what's coming, but also suffering while you're anticipating that. That's the first aspect of this very grim story that we are approaching an annual observation of on Friday. The second point, between two others, with Jesus in the middle. I wondered about this as I was reading this, because there are a few possibilities that I thought might be the reason why. One, maybe, was to portray Jesus as just one of several. He's very unimportant. He's just another troublemaker for Rome that they're getting rid of. Maybe it was due to Roman efficiency. You know, we're already crucifying these two guys. What's one more? Line up. But I wondered if it was not part of the message that Pilate had written. Jesus takes the royal spot, the king spot for this mockery. He's centered. He becomes the focus, but not in a way of reverence and honor, but in a way of mocking and humiliation. As they witnessed the two other men, I wondered what James and John might have been thinking about their mother's request to sit on the right and left hand of Jesus in his coming kingdom. Remember, James was the first apostolic martyr, the first to lose his life because of his faith in Christ. So the idea of these three men being executed in this lengthy, public, and humiliating fashion, remember that it is only artistic reverence, as well as custom and a little more than a bit of supposition, that cause portrayals in art of the victims of crucifixion to be wearing a sort of loincloth or skirt. Victims of crucifixion were usually naked. This is particularly significant when we think about the notice that was above the cross, Jesus, King of the Jews. Because remember, the sign of the covenant was the circumcision of every man. I'm not deliberately trying to be crude or shocking. That representation of this is what we do, this is what we can do, is very significant. It brings us to our third point. The very wording of the text seems to cause some need for reflection and meditation. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Nazareth. Nazareth is a podunk town in the middle of nowhere. Earlier in John, Jesus is doubted to even be a prophet at all simply because of where he's from. They even throw shade on Nicodemus, one of the most outstanding scholars in the Sanhedrin, by saying, "Search the scriptures." I always love it when people who aren't that familiar with the scriptures say things like that. It's one of those, this is going to come back to bite you. Search the scriptures. No prophet comes from Galilee. Well, when Jesus was talking about the people's demand for signs, and he gives his famous statement, "No sign will be given to this generation except the sign of Jonah." Now, what did Jesus mean when he said, you will be given a sign, the sign of Jonah? Now, what's the sign of Jonah? All you good scholarly people should probably think about that and remember it. It's one of the most famous Sunday school stories we teach. What happened to Jonah? Got swallowed by a fish. How long was he in the fish? 3 days. And then what happened? He came out. There you go. You got the death, burial, resurrection right there, the metaphor. Now, our map does show the approximate location of where Jonah's from. My students have made this excellent map that shows us where things are. Jonah is from around here, a little town called Gath-Hepher, according to Jewish history. Oh my gosh, what's that? The Sea of Galilee. No prophet arises from Galilee unless you've actually looked at a map and you know what you're looking at. So let's learn a little geography, people. So, no prophet arises from Galilee except, oh yeah, Jonah. So that's the first part. Even their statement of where Jesus is from is supposed to be an insult because he's from this little nowhere place. But what does the Bible say about God? He takes the things that are small and makes them great, even the things that are not, to bring to nothing the things that are. The second is the next statement, the King of the Jews. Now, the King of the Jews is a Gentile term. It is a term that most people of the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob do not use. It's mostly a Gentile term. We read it the first time in Matthew when the Magi are seeking the infant Jesus. They said, where is he who is born to be King of the Jews? We have seen his star in the east and we have come to worship him. So Pilate is very understandable in writing the King of the Jews because to him, it's a group of people who have a certain language, they live in a certain area, and they have certain customs. It's very nationalistic understanding. Jews do not use this term. We find that out in the earlier part of the book of John when Nathanael, after whom my son is named, you can see he's one of my favorite people, is told by Jesus, before Philip called you, I saw you under the fig tree. And long before Peter made his great confession, Nathanael said, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Now, what is the big deal about calling somebody King of the Jews and King of Israel? I'll tell you, it's as important as not calling a Texan a Southerner. Texans, we are not Southerners. We are Texans. Remember that. It's important. The King of the Jews, as I said, is a term that indicates a language, a custom, a bunch of customs, a location. A King of Israel indicates a relationship with God, a covenant relationship that goes back to the ancestors of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose other name is Israel. This is a term indicating the covenant of God with people. That's why this is so important. And notice what this term says about Jesus' enemies. Pilate would be expected to write that, King of the Jews. But what do the Sanhedrin leaders say? They say, don't write King of the Jews, right? He said he was King of the Jews. They're using the same term, and that's important because these terms are about customs and language and location. Why do these people want Jesus dead? Because they want to maintain their place, their location. They want to maintain their power, their authority, their income. Is this at all about their relationship with God? Not at all. Pilate and the unbelieving leaders wanted a sign to illustrate their power over the Jews. The Sanhedrin leaders said, "This is what happens to people who challenge us. This is what happens to people who try to remove our influence and authority." Pilate wanted everybody to know, "This is what Rome does to people who challenge us, especially to Jews." See, you couldn't crucify a Roman citizen. It was illegal. But Jesus isn't a Roman citizen. Neither are these other two guys. We don't care. This is what we do. And the sign is to mock. This is what happens to people who try to run things. This is what happens to people who try to be in power or include themselves or influence others. Pilate's control is military. The leader's control is cultural. This is what we can do. But this power is not the kind of power that Jesus is showing. As our worship leaders come up, Jesus' power as King of the Jews is, this is what I do. I suffer on behalf of others. I sacrifice not you, but me. And I love, because you are the most important thing to me. And even though you have no idea what I'm doing for you, I'm not going to wait for you to understand. I'm going to sacrifice now. I'm going to love you now. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to enter your life and be your Savior. Thanks be to God.